Hello, everyone. My name is Siobhan Hickey, and I work in ICR Inc.'s Energy Sustainability and Modern Mobility Investor Relations practice. It is my pleasure to be moderating the Dragonfly Energy presentation today on the Share Conference series. We have with us here today Dr. Denis Phares, CEO of Dragonfly Energy, and the company's CFO, John Marchetti. For those unfamiliar, Dragonfly is a leader in lithium-ion deep cycle batteries, which are replacing lead-acid batteries across multiple markets, including recreational vehicles, marine, and off-grid solar solutions. Dragonfly's long-term mission is to develop safe, affordable, and reliable energy storage solutions that allow green energy resources to better compete with the burning of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas. In May of this year, Dragonfly and Chardin Nextech Acquisition 2 Corp announced a definitive agreement for a business combination that will ultimately result in Dragonfly becoming a publicly listed company. Upon closing of the transaction, the combined company will be named Dragonfly Energy and is expected to be listed on the Nasdaq under the new ticker symbol DFLI. With that, it would help the audience, Dr. Phares, if you could begin with telling us the history of how Dragonfly was started and why it was so important to you to found a company such as Dragonfly.
Sure. Thank you, Siobhan. Dragonfly Energy is a lithium-ion battery technology company, and we really are technology focused. My background is tech heavy. I was a professor for 12 years in engineering. First at Texas A&M, then at USC. I got a Ph.D. from Caltech. I've done a lot of work in powder processing, aerosol mechanics, fluid mechanics, nanotechnology, eventually making my way around to the production of lithium-ion batteries. And so when I really started focusing on lithium-ion batteries and specifically the processes associated with their manufacturing so that we can reduce the cost of storage, that's when it really became important to me to start looking beyond academia. I left my tenured position. I went and I got an MBA and started Dragonfly Energy with the specific goal of reducing the cost of energy storage so we could get more intermittency onto the grid, more renewable energy, more solar and more wind. But I did understand the pitfalls of being in a technology company. There's a lot of cash burn. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to developing new technology. So at Dragonfly Energy, we did something very different. We actually went to market very early with a line of deep cycle lithium iron phosphate battery packs. We branded our retail brand Battleborn Batteries. That's named after the Battleborn state of Nevada. That's where we make them, right here in Reno. And that brand took off, and we really gained great traction in a number of industries, especially the RV industry. And so that over the last 6-7 years, that business drove the further development of the manufacturing processes, which evolved into the production of all solid state deep cycle lithium ion batteries. So we're very unique in how we went to market, the kind of technology we are, and how we allow the technology to develop until now we're at an inflection point where we are ready to deploy the technology. And that's very much why we are going through this transaction. So we already have a history of displacing lead acid batteries. That's the incumbent for deep cycle batteries with our lithium iron phosphate alternatives. And moving forward, there are a number of adjacent markets that we're ready to attack now while we deploy the new solid state manufacturing technology.
To expand further on that, what are some of the other benefits to consumers of being able to utilize lithium-ion batteries instead of the lead-acid batteries that Dragonfly is replacing in the market today?
Right. Well, I mean, if you look at the consumer markets, which are very much dominated by lead-acid batteries, for example, boat owners or RV owners, or even some off-grid solar systems are basically comprised of a large number of lead-acid batteries. And one reason that it makes sense for us as an environmentally focused company to address the lead acid problem now is because even though lead acid batteries are the incumbent technology, they come with a lot of environmental penalties. Lead is obviously a heavy toxic element. The majority of lead acid batteries are recycled globally, which is great, but at the same time, not all of them are recycled. The ones that aren't really do create an environmental nightmare. So the health effects of unrecycled lead acid batteries globally are pretty significant. So it's important for us to create a safer alternative. Lithium iron phosphate does not have those heavy toxic metals like cobalt that a traditional lithium-ion battery has. So it really does present a great environmentally benign solution, while at the same time actually providing a cost-effective and a beneficial performance for the end consumer. And it's something that has really benefited us in terms of sharing this information, educating the public, and it's allowed us to really transform the RV business, while at the same time being able to reach out to some of these other adjacent markets.
Thank you. We've heard a lot in the press about the need to manufacture energy here in the US, and the company has previously stated it will produce its own cells in the future. Would you please discuss the benefit of Would you please discuss the benefit to Dragonfly of making these in-house?
Well, the benefit to Dragonfly, in terms of a business case, it's actually more cost effective to be manufacturing the cells in-house. From a supply chain standpoint, obviously, it's a lot more stable for us to be able to source raw materials domestically. For example, we're in Nevada. There's a lot of lithium in the ground in Nevada. So for us to be able to transform that lithium into an end product in a very vertically integrated fashion is basically, it results in a very, very stable supply chain for us. Relying on foreign sources of cells or even materials creates an extra layer of complexity and risk. So, obviously it's not a bad idea for companies to vertically integrate to shore up their supply chain. But on top of that, just as an American company, when it comes to energy, it really behooves us to start really utilizing the resources that we have and not relying so much on foreign sources. Not that you can't have international trade. I think that's very important, and we have wonderful partners right now overseas. But in terms of a domestic economy, it really makes sense for us to produce things again, manufacture again domestically, and even start to increase some of our own exports, especially when it comes to energy, which is going to dominate the economy over the next several decades minimum.
Okay. As a follow-up to that, creation of battery cells in-house will increase capital costs. How should we think about this return on investment? And do you have concerns about obtaining material inputs for those?
That's a great question, actually, because traditionally it costs billions of dollars to basically make a lithium-ion cell manufacturing facility that's big enough to be able to enjoy economies of scale to get those costs down. So the premise of the technology that we've developed in-house is to lower not just the manufacturing costs, but the equipment costs, the capital costs associated with making, gigawatt hour scale of cells. So in terms of capital costs, we actually have an advantage over traditional lithium-ion battery manufacturing. So this is something that really benefits investors. In terms of the material inputs, as I mentioned, there is a lot of lithium in the ground here in Nevada. There's easily accessible lithium in the ground here in Nevada. Now, that industry is just getting up and running now in terms of mines that are opening over the next few years. We have been working with some of the local mines. We already have an MOU in place with Ioneer. So we are going to have our own supply of battery-grade lithium carbonate. We're also working with recycling companies. For example, Aqua Metals is developing technologies to extract lithium from spent lithium-ion batteries back to lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide. We'll be able to get access to recycled lithium, which is huge when it comes to, as this technology, as this industry really starts to blossom, it's going to come full circle, and a lot of those spent lithium cells are going to become lithium batteries again. So it's an exciting time to be doing this. And Nevada in particular is a really exciting location. It is going to be the hub of lithium-ion battery technology. And that's one reason we set up shop here 10 years ago.
Okay, thank you. The world is focused on enabling a transition to clean energy, and energy storage solutions will definitely play a critical role. As a result, there are currently there is a lot of competition within the battery and energy storage markets. Can you discuss, explain for us how Dragonfly fits within the industry as a whole and what differentiates the company versus its peers?
Well, I think that we're a very broad company. We're uniquely broad. So if you compare us to other suppliers of lithium iron phosphate packs, for example, they're not developing new manufacturing technologies. If you look at companies that are developing new lithium ion battery chemistries or processes, they're not in the market now selling battery packs. So we do encompass a large portion of this space, I would say. So it really sets us apart to have revenues now. We sold, $78 million in 2021. We've been growing, year after year consistently, over the last 6-7 years. So we're a technology company that's profitable, that's been growing, that has healthy business fundamentals, and that's given us the freedom to allow the technology and the science to develop. And it really puts us in a very strong position now compared to our peers in our market today. While in the future, we've been uniquely focused on storage and not on electric vehicles. And that's also very unique to us. We already produce storage packs, but we don't have an interest in making another electric vehicle battery. We're focused on a low levelized cost battery that is many, many cycles, low production costs, but the solid state aspect of it is that it's non-flammable. We're looking to make something that is completely safe, that you can deploy safely in your home. And so this is another aspect that makes us unique, that sets us apart from, I don't know if I call it competition, but other lithium-ion battery technology companies. We're unique in our focus.
Oh, thank you. That's very interesting. As a corollary to this, the world will need a lot of different technologies to enable the energy transition. What are your thoughts about on how you see the energy storage markets evolving over time?
Well, my opinion is that we need everything we can get. There are a lot of storage technologies out there. We already have pumped hydro storage. We've got new types of gravimetric storage. We've got molten salt storage. We've got even hydrogen storage. I think we need all of it. There's new battery technologies out there. There's flow batteries. There's sodium batteries. Every battery has its own benefit. And the grid itself is large in scale. You've got very large installations of energy production where you might need very large storage installations. But at the same time, if you want a true, stable, smart grid, you need storage nodes everywhere. That means in every building, in every home. We see our technology, which is energy dense for a battery in general. It's not the most energy dense lithium ion battery, but lithium iron phosphate is very energy dense when compared to other types of batteries, while at the same time being non-flammable. So that's why we're focused on that last mile storage, that microgrid storage, where we see our battery installed in every building, in every home, in every business on the grid. And of course, there's a long way between where we are now and revolutionizing the grid. But ultimately, that's where we see our technology the most well suited.
Okay, thank you. You and your team members have regularly said lead is dead, meaning that lead-based battery technology must be replaced with lithium-ion technology. We've touched on some of the environmental benefits already, but can you discuss in further detail the benefits of lithium-ion based technology from a performance and economic standpoint, and additional anything else?
Sure. Yeah, that campaign has worked out very well for us. Obviously we are going head to head against the incumbent technology, which is lead acid batteries. For some cases, lead acid batteries are very effective for, cranking and very rapid high power delivery. They're pretty good. In terms of deep cycle storage, they're not good. I mean, the lead acid battery tends to be the pain point for the RV owner or the boat owner. The batteries are just heavy, they're unreliable, they're toxic, they're corrosive. You always have to replace them. It's always a bear to replace them. So the benefit of our lithium iron phosphate alternative is, first of all, it's 1/5 the weight. So in terms of just overall handling, it's a lot easier. You can fit a lot more power and energy in that small space. They can be cycled many, many times. And I mean, from full to empty over and over and over again, thousands of cycles. You cannot do that with a lead acid battery. So that means the overall cost of ownership of the lithium iron phosphate alternative is a lot less. And ultimately that's what benefits the consumer's pocketbook. But at the same time, you don't have to worry about maintenance. There's no maintenance. They're not toxic. They're not corrosive. There's no acid. There's no heavy metals. So, ultimately, to be able to put a lithium iron phosphate system in your RV and do things you couldn't do with a lead acid system, like power your air conditioner, wake up and make coffee with your coffee maker, your microwave oven, your hair dryer, not only can you change the way that you experienced RVing in the past, but you also don't have to worry about these environmental effects associated with, the proliferation of lead acid batteries globally.
Okay. Sort of as a follow-up to that, the cost of Dragonfly and Battleborn batteries are described as being cheaper than their toxic lead acid batteries that they're replacing, but they do have a higher upfront cost. Can you discuss how we should think about this?
Sure. Well, again, it has to do with cyclability. How many cycles can you expect over the lifetime of the battery pack? And you're paying apples to apples, an upfront cost of less than double a lead acid battery. But at the same time, it's going to last, at least 5 to 10 times longer lifetime wise. So, overall, you're looking at 1/5 the price over the lifetime of the battery. So the cost of ownership is significantly less expensive.
Thank you. What industries are you seeing the most traction in currently, meaning growth potential, and what is Dragonfly doing to expand its footprint within those industries?
We've been growing dramatically over the last 5 years in RVs, and honestly, this is something that we've been, as a young company, we've had to really strive to meet that demand. But now that we have been sort of over that hump, we're going through this transaction to grow into other adjacent markets, like I talked about. We can now focus on some of these other markets. These include marine. I would say marine, in terms of adoption of lithium, is a few years behind RVs. Our fastest growing market now is the off-grid solar market. So just folks either with tiny homes or they're in a rural area off-grid. They want to be able to live off of solar or off of wind, and so they need a battery bank to store the electricity during the day, deliver it at night. So that's our fastest growing market. But on top of that, we're looking at things like work trucks, forklifts, material handling equipment, telecom, data centers. There's a lot of markets that are completely dominated still by lead acid batteries. So a lot of room for us to grow before we start talking about revolutionizing the grid. Okay,
thank you. And perhaps one for John. What does the manufacturing process entail, and how long does it take the company to produce one of your units?
Sure. I think it's important to make the distinction between the solid state cell technology that we're developing right now in-house and are in the process of establishing a pilot line for that. But in terms of our assembly process for our traditional LFP packs, today we import the cells, but we do all the design for those batteries. As Dennis mentioned, we do a lot of R&D work and product development here in-house in Reno, and we do all of the assembly here in Reno as well. And that assembly process varies obviously by the different packs that we do develop and design and assemble. But on average, it takes roughly an hour for us to assemble and get a battery out. So we do, hundreds of batteries a day. And we actually have an in-house automation team as well. So we continue to add some of that automation work to our assembly process to continue to get efficiencies on those sides as well.
Thank you. Perhaps turning for a moment to solid state technology, if you could just maybe take a few minutes discussing that. I know management has talked about deploying the technology in the next 12 to 18 months, and you've mentioned a couple of potential markets for solid state batteries in various places. How are you pushing into this new addressable market, and just some overview on that technology?
Sure, maybe I'll take from the process side a little bit, and Dennis can certainly speak a little bit to some of the technology improvements. But as one of the key focuses for us on the solid state development is getting our pilot line established here over the next several months, so that we can prove out a lot of the process and manufacturing work that we've done over the last several years. As we start to bring those to market, as Dennis mentioned, the key safety aspect of it, I think, is really what is very unique on the storage side of it. And we've talked a little bit about being very focused on the consumer storage markets today. And as we're starting to move into the industrial markets, I think those markets will be a little bit of a, will benefit both from the existing LFP batteries that we sell today, but there will be some applications within those industrial markets where solid state and that safety aspect of it, I think, become very critical. So, Dennis mentioned, obviously, ultimately, the ultimate goal is to really help stabilize and change the grid, on the microgrid side of things. But in between there's a lot of opportunity, I think, even for solid state batteries within that industrial market, because of that safety aspect of it that becomes so critical and allows you to deploy it in a lot of different ways. Maybe I'll just turn it back over to Dennis to talk a little bit more about the technology itself.
Sure. Well, the technology itself, as I mentioned before, I have sort of a background in powder processing, aerosol mechanics, advanced manufacturing. So what we're doing is we're growing lithium-ion battery electrodes from a dry powder process, while at the same time layering composite solid electrolytes right on top of each other. So if you can imagine, you've got an electrode, and then you've got an electrolyte layer, and traditionally these are flat layers that are very difficult to maintain in intimate contact. The way that we grow these layers, it's more like a very high surface area, very low resistance interface. So it's much easier to get lithium ions from the electrode into the electrolyte and into the counter electrode. That's something that our process does very, very well, that other solid state processes have not really addressed well. So we don't have to apply, for example, external pressures to achieve these high conductivities, low resistances. We don't have to dope with liquid. So it's something that we are uniquely adept at, making batteries that are perfect for storage. Again, we're not going for the powers necessary to make an EV battery, but for storage, that solid system works really well.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one or possibly two more, just depending. We just got another one from the line. Are off-grid customers with solar panels a large market opportunity for you? And what are your capabilities? Meaning, do you sell equipment to them directly, or are you selling through retailers?
Sure. So I think if you look at the off-grid solar opportunity, Dennis mentioned it's one of our fastest growing areas right now. And I think one of the things that, again, does make it a little bit different than some of our peers is we've done an awful lot of design work on full systems across the entire consumer spectrum, right? And that allows us to help customers not only with what the overall system needs look like, but we also resell a lot of those ancillary, from the panel down to the inverters, the chargers, things like that. We resell all of that equipment. So a customer can come to us whether you're talking consumer or even on the OEM side, a customer can come to us and we can help them design the full system, sell them all the pieces that they need, and deliver it all as one kit. So we've done a lot of that to date. We've also recently introduced an industrial solar team to drive this more at that OEM level, where we have a number of programs underway with larger installers around the country that are putting in full commercial grade systems. So there's a lot of work and a lot of growth that we expect in that overall solar market, over the next several years, whether it's on the consumer side or on the OEM side as well.
Thank you. Maybe we'll just try and squeeze one last one in here. What are the milestones for the rest of 2022 and for next year?
Well, obviously, we're trying to get public now. We want this transaction completed so that we can get to the other side and refocus our efforts on basically driving this technology, which entails the completion of our solid state pilot line. So the next big milestone for us is going to be the completion of that pilot line sometime next year. We do expect that as we start optimizing the chemistry for longevity of those solid cells, that we'll have something, samples ready to deliver at some point next year as well. So, there's some very near-term exciting things happening here. This transaction is a big part of it. Obviously, we've grown over the last few years very organically. And as we transition to a public company now, it really provides us the resources to accelerate the technology, accelerate that growth. So we're very excited about where we stand right now.
Are there any milestones people could be looking for in the next, call it, year or two on the solid state stuff, things that would be major hurdles we should be looking for?
Well, there's scaling a technology always has hurdles. We've focused on processes that scale very nicely. Actually, that's why the dry powder processes that we have focused on are that started as our focus because we knew these were scalable processes. We're doing things like spray drying and powder coating and very scalable technologies. Now, we've already internally demonstrated the efficacy of these processes to make efficient cells. As we scale into the pilot line type production rates, there may be some hurdles that we have to cross engineering wise. It's something that we're very adept at and something we're used to, but we do expect that announcement to come at some point in the next year.
Great, thank you very much. We are almost up on time, so I'm a little hesitant to start another question or discussion. Denis, did you want to take a few minutes to wrap up and give any last thoughts before we're done here today?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I hope what we are able to elucidate here is how we are unique as a technology company, how we actually went to market, drove revenue, funded our own technology development, and where we are right now is very much an inflection point, both in terms of scaling the technology, deploying the technology to this larger scale, and at the same time growing our core business into these adjacent markets that are ripe for a change. So the risks in investing in technology companies are very much mitigated with this play because of our ability to go to market, gain traction in industries, and drive profit.
Okay, well, thank you. I think that's all we have time for here today. We thank everybody for attending and look forward to interacting more in the future.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.